But there were a few kids that kind of, hate to use the expression, but they kind of slipped through the cracks. And
Right.
there were like two or three that consistently did not log on, did not engage in any type of learning at all.
Hello, hello, all those beautiful faces. How we doing? How we doing? Stephanie checking in with another episode of Class Disruption. And I know it's been a while since I posted over here because like I said in my last video before the new year, I am 100% focused on opening these schools. You can see I've got the schools are essential hoodie, and on the back, of course, it's got the hashtag open schools. We got the QR code so you can sign our petition. So please go check that out over at the YouTube channel, Teachers for Open Schools. We're on Facebook, we're on Instagram, we're on Twitter. So follow us on your preferred platform. Plug in. Schools are essential. We need them open. All kids deserve the option for in-person schooling. And if you agree with me, smash that like button. I love your beautiful face. If you're new here, hit that subscribe button and that bell so you can get notified every time I drop a video, which might be a little bit less consistently on this platform because like I said, I'm all in on open schools. So check me out on those channels. I got all those links in the description down below. And what we're going to do here today is I actually have an interview from a while ago with Eleni Filippatos. I hope I said that right, Eleni. She is actually the co-founder with me of Teachers for Open Schools. We are both New York City public school teachers. She teaches third grade. She's an ENL teacher, and she is actually, luckily, at this time, back in her class. Her school just switched over to 5-day in-person, full-time, face-to-face. However, middle schools and high schools don't even have a date to get back in the classroom. And so many schools across this country are still fully virtual. And that's why we are fighting for these schools to open. That's why we are Teachers for Open Schools. And so today I'm going to bring you this conversation that we had before. We were fighting for open schools, but it was before we started Teachers for Open Schools. You get an inside look into Eleni's teaching practice, her approach with her kids, and how much she loves and cares about them. And we're taking all that energy and we're putting it into open schools so that we can get all kids that same experience. So enjoy this conversation. Let me know what you love about Eleni, what you learned from her teaching practice in those comments down below. Let us know where you're checking in from. Are your schools open? Are they closed? And what can we do to help support a safe reopening where teachers are really at the forefront, pushing for those student-centered creative solutions. So again, check us out at teachersforopενschools.com. Sign our petition, get some swag, let everybody know you are for open schools. And let's get into this interview without any further ado. Eleni, it's good to see you. How you doing?
Good. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, I know we were just saying like we met on Twitter, so now it's like we're officially meeting though.
It's good to have that face-to-face interaction. And it's been so nice having a community of like-minded teachers and educators on Twitter and parents. And
Yeah, I mean, it's always good to like get other perspectives, but it's good to also form those communities for sure. And especially I've been saying like right now, so many teachers are at the sideline, I feel like, and we got to get up here. We got to have our voices heard and make sure we're pushing against the system. But I don't want to get into that yet. First, like I was saying, like we're just officially meeting. I kind of know a little bit about you. Like I know you're a teacher in New York City. I know you teach the little ones, but I want to know more. Like, who are you? What do you do? What are you all about? Where are you from?
yeah, so I'm Eleni. I teach third grade. And I am an ENL teacher, English as a New Language. I teach in Washington Heights, but I'm originally from Jersey. Well, I actually still live in Jersey in Hoboken, but
Okay.
grew up in the suburbs and had this crazy dream. I always wanted to teach in the big city, and I always said that was what I was going to do, and I went ahead and did it, and I love it. And yeah, I'm passionate about what I do. I love teaching children. I love teaching language learners, working with bilinguals, working with diverse populations, and I love Washington Heights. I found like this little niche community. It's
Okay.
amazing.
Yeah, and I'm probably like about the same distance from the city opposite of you. So I definitely understand that whole idea of like the city and like being this big place and like when you go there it's like this special occasion and everything's big and always my son even now he's like when I get older I'm going to move to the Bronx when I'm like 16. And I'm like, "Okay, when you're 16." Oh, speaking of him, I think he might be making a cameo right now. You want to come say hi? Yeah, this is the mic. Ugh.
Hi, nice to meet you.
So nice to meet you. I know it's in my headphones. Here.
Oh,
Ugh.
hey, can you hear me? How are you? Nice to meet you.
Well, all right.
He's 5, right?
He'll be 5 in March. Yeah. So he's in preschool and he goes in Westchester.
Okay.
Pre-K, my bad. Um, yeah. So I grew up in Stamford, Connecticut, and that's
Okay.
actually still where I live too. So
Oh,
we have like opposite sides, but I get you similar vibe from the city. So yeah, I went to grad school out in the city. I like moved out there. I was like, yeah, like I'm out the house. Okay. So, but like came back real quick. It's like I had a kid. Boom, like hit. But so tell me just like about and we're both year 5. You were just saying that. So like I feel like again we on that same track here. So like we're getting our experience up and then boom, year 5, just when we hit our stride, things switch up. So tell me about your experience so far. I guess it really started last spring. So like, maybe start like last, March and bring me up through now.
yeah. So I'll be transparent too. In March, I was started getting on Twitter and I was advocating to close the schools because at that time the pandemic hit and we were going in a lockdown. And I was just talking to my mom about this. Like at that time, they were saying in the articles, go get 2 weeks worth of food. You're gonna be everything shut down for 2 weeks. So and then I said, of
I'm
course,
old enough to remember 15 days to
right.
slow the spread. Yep.
Exactly. And so it's like, of course, then if that's what we're going to do, we got to close the schools for 2 weeks. And, we all left that day. I'm sure you were there that week in March when we were
I
gathering our
called
things.
out sick. I on that Friday, I was like, because a lot of my on YouTube, like I have been watching sources that were kind of ahead. They were like talking about wearing masks already and all this stuff, and I'm like, yo, everybody's like really calm. Like this isn't adding up to me. So I called out, and I'm right with you. Yeah, I was super like, okay, like let's do this 2 weeks.
Exactly. And on that Friday, the 13th, so eerie, I
Yep.
remember saying to the kids, like, I was getting news alerts about like cases starting to come in New York. And I just got this feeling, and I thought that we were going to shut down for 2 weeks. And I just said, just bring all your books home this weekend and bring all your notebooks, just bring everything that's in your desk. And they're like, okay. And then we said goodbye. And I remember so distinctly that I used to always hug the kids goodbye at dismissal. And there was
Mm,
one boy who was like way too cool for it. He would always try to like avoid the hugs. And on this day, I was like, all right, we're going to elbow bump goodbye today.
yeah.
And he was like, with his little arms, like he needed that hug. And I just, gosh, if I knew that that was be my last chance to hug that kid, I would have done it. But yeah, so I was on Twitter the next week, like, we got to shut the schools down. This is going to be a 2 week thing. And I thought for sure we'd be back. And then I was very optimistic. I was very enthusiastic about remote learning. I tried all kinds of things with my kids. And, we're young enough. We know the technology. So I wasn't worried about anything. I was like the first person in my school to set up a Zoom call. Everybody was like,
Okay.
you're going online. I was like, day one, I had a schedule and everything. And the kids liked it. Like in the beginning, we were positive and they were excited by it all. It had, I don't
My
know about you,
Instagram
but
live was a popping on the first day because I did like an IG live thing. I had like
yeah,
50 kids on there, like
it was like this
yeah.
novel thing. Like, wow, we get to interact online with our teachers and our friends. And by the end, I started to get very discouraged by what was going on, the fact that we just never went back. And It wasn't just that. I mean, we finished the year strong. I taught third grade last year as well, and I had looped with that class, so I taught them in second grade.
Nice.
It
I
was
love looping. I
Oh my
love
God, it
it.
was an amazing experience, and I had such a strong relationship with the kids and with their families, so
Mhm.
it made it all easy, but there were a few kids that kind of, hate to use the expression, but they kinda slipped through the cracks, and
Right.
there were, like, 2 or 3 that consistently did not log on, did not engage in any type of learning at all, and, the s the policy at that point in the spring was if they interact at all, you
Mhm.
mark them present or whatever we're calling it. So these kids knew that, and they would log on to Google Classroom and say hi, or they would submit their work blank,
Mm.
and we would be told that we have to mark them present. And so I just started to get so depressed and so concerned for these kids that missed months and months of education, and nobody was doing anything about it. Nobody cared. All they wanted was to just push them along and say, no, they were present. Look at our attendance. We had, the mayor, they were touting that attendance, but it was fake. That
Right. I was just saying this. I was talking to Alex from Chalkbeat, and he was like, we were talking about the NX thing basically.
Yeah.
And that's what I was saying. I was like, listen, they're just kicking a can. Like, that's what this is. That's what the system does. They kick the can, they work the data, they try to make it look good. And it's just like, it's so that to me, it's criminal because we know, especially third grade, because there's a lot of grades like middle school. You can maybe make the argument that they'll make it up or whatever, but like that second, third grade, we know that all the data correlates to graduation.
Mhm.
Like that's where you need to be on point. You need to be at grade level, like reading and math.
And that's the thing that got me so upset. I mean, kids that are learning to read, first of all, if you can't read, you're not going to be able to learn online. You're not going to be able to navigate online.
Right. It's like you just need literacy to do anything.
Right. And so, and then I just thought, wow, I mean, at least my third graders, most of them can read. Imagine these kindergarteners and first graders. I mean, I recently said to someone who teaches first grade, if I had to just choose one grade to just get in, use every school building space that we have in the city and just let everybody else be home and spread out those first graders, that's what I would do. Just first grade, because they need to literally learn to read before we can do anything else. But I think all of them are, so important, K to 5, pre-K to 5, but just the socialization
Yeah.
and the development
I think
physically.
about the kids who are seniors who haven't been in school halfway through their junior year, and now they're basically gonna finish out their senior year. That real like, cause like when they're in 10th grade, like I don't know if you remember being in 10th grade. I remember being in 10th grade. I was a total jerk. Like, I
Right.
just like, you think you know everything, but I just remember like not really like getting things, but thinking I was cool, whatever. But like junior year, you kind of like turn it on. And like, I feel like a lot of kids really mature. They come back as juniors, and I'm like, really? Like, you couldn't act like that when you were in my class? But okay. So, and it's just a shame that they don't really get the full experience of that, like coming into themselves.
Exactly. And then they're gonna hopefully go to college. But
Yeah, or
I mean,
some program. Yeah.
imagine going to away to college and you haven't even been in your own school with your own friends for a year. I mean, that's got to be anxiety inducing.
Mhm.
I mean, we already know the mental health tolls this is taking just right
Yeah.
now, but imagine trying to move forward from it.
Hmm. So it's definitely a lot. All right, so we're in March. You had some kids fall off the grid, fall through the cracks, and then we had summertime. Did you do summer school at all? I don't know if you're a summer school
I did
person.
not. I did have to refer some of my students who I felt like they didn't even log in or really get any education for the past few months. So those students were in the first week of summer school, they were calling me. I worked the full days. I wasn't teaching, but I was like getting them onto Zoom and sharing screen with them. And it was like, an orientation, I guess
I
you
had
could
kids,
say.
it's not like in normal summer school, you usually have kids who you don't have, but in this situation, it's so hard to have kids who you've never had because, you're relying on stars and like, who knows if the information is right in there. And then it's like, they're like, yeah, okay, lady. And, like
Yeah.
I'm nobody to
Right.
them. And it's not like they're rude to me or anything on the phone, but like, I'm sure that's what the experience is like. So I definitely was some teachers had reached out to me through Instagram and they were like, oh, my kid is in your class. Like, so I was definitely doing like you were doing with some teachers who weren't working.
Yeah, it was like for that first week it was nonstop, and I was communicating with these teachers who I've never even met, and the parents and the kids, and it was crazy. But some of them, they still didn't log in to summer school. I heard it was the same, but what happened? Nothing. I mean, I'm not saying we should have held them back, but I'm just saying we're not doing enough, and it's not. It's a disservice to the kids to just say, "Oh yeah, well, she went to summer school, so now she's ready for 4th grade."
Right.
And now is she even logging into 4th grade? Like, how many years, how many months, how much are these children going to just miss? And then we just say, "Okay, well, needs improvement," or whatever we say, but when are they going to get that and how? And I know that the chancellor came out, was it this week or last, and the mayor with this plan for next year. I mean,
2021.
yeah, it's like
Okay, what about the rest of the year?
we
Like,
have so much
yeah.
time. We just need to do something. And I mean, I don't know about, well, you guys are still remote, but
Yeah.
we're talking about hopefully getting to a 5-day model where at least the kids who are in person can be there 5 days. I mean, to me, that's the best case scenario, even if it's not everyone. And
Yeah.
I still feel for those kids who are home, but at the end of the day, I mean, they have
Listen,
the
what I want you to do is I DM'd you the information from my girl Jenny, and she is a like reading the um, in McGillen something program. You know what I'm talking about? I always forget how to say it, but she's like certified and all that. And when they switched over to all remote, she had really good programs online that would still help her, like, because like how you're talking about with the tapping and the manipulating, she does all that. She'll like do cool stories where she'll like demonstrate with her students and stuff. And so just like hit her up in the DMs, be like, you know me, and she'll tell you everything you need to know.
awesome. Yeah, I will. I will, because at this point, they're still online half the time, if not all the time, and
Yeah.
we need an intense intervention to
Yeah.
get kids reading. I mean, I have kids who are reading at a kindergarten level in 3rd grade, and we can't just keep acting like, I recently read something about, a bunch of people on Twitter saying, "Oh, people are talking about quote unquote learning loss." I mean, it's real.
Yeah.
Learning is a real thing, and it is important, and I know that social emotional well-being is important too, and trauma
Mhm.
informed instruction, all of these things that we're talking about this year are important, but they don't exist alone in a vacuum.
Do you know what helps you make you good at dealing with trauma? Being confident about moving through the world because you can read.
Right.
Like, because you have a skill and you're like, look at what I can do. Like, you don't just like become confident because you did a bunch of trauma informed things where you talked about your feelings.
Right.
And that's nothing against doing that. Like, I'm super into, we have a social emotional learning program at my school, and I'm one of the people who, like, you know how they'll like send people to like go do the main training and bring it back. So like, I'm one of the people in my school who does it, and I'm super passionate about it, but it's only as effective as like rigorous that our academic program is. And we do a really good job at my school, like bringing the language like across the curriculum and like intertwining it kind of in everything that we do.
Mm.
So it's like all that. And that's always my problem with this stuff, like equity for all, like trauma informed, like, and like you said, needs improvement. Like, it's really nice jargon,
Right.
but what are we doing for the kids? You
Right.
know? And so I wanted to ask you, we kind of covered like why you're fighting for school opening, I feel like. So, but I wanted to ask you what you're doing with your kids right now. So, because I know you're doing a cool project and I'm sure you're doing a bunch of other stuff. So, what are you doing right now to make the most of hybrid? And now, you're on the not hybrid part of the, hybrid right now. So just tell us how you're making it happen right now, what you're doing.
Yeah, yeah. So, for the past couple of years, a few years ago, I participated in the Service Learning Institute, which is a professional development set up through the DOE. So that was an awesome experience. I got to meet teachers from all 5 boroughs and grades K to 12, which was really cool. And we had some training on service learning, and it was a really cool experience because I've always kind of been passionate about connecting the curricular content areas, and kind of doing thematic units and making those real world connections. And then this really was like the missing piece of the puzzle because it brought service into it. And like we
Yeah.
can learn about these really important issues in the world and use all these skills that we're learning academically, learn about real problems, and then think about how we can solve real problems. I mean, that was like the aha moment of
Right. That's the purpose, right? That's when you're
our
like,
purpose.
oh, boom.
Like these are the citizens that we want to create. And so I just had a great experience a couple years ago, and I've continued that work. And then this year the same group, the Service Learning Institute, put a program together called the Kids Action Team. And
Okay.
so a group of us across the city are kind of refocusing our efforts on how we can bring service learning into the hybrid models and the virtual models. And we picked some issues to focus on with our classes, and then the kids pick which ones they care about. So we looked at food insecurity, animal wellness, and animal welfare, and sustainability. And then the kids kind of gravitate towards whichever one they naturally are interested in and care a lot about and are passionate about. And so my kids got really passionate about food insecurity and hunger, and they're so
Yeah,
just at
that's a
that
big
age.
right now, and I can imagine it probably really is affecting like some of their families because we already know the statistics about how many of the families are homeless, and then on top of that, insecure housing, insecure food. So yeah, I can see why.
Yeah, and so they were just and they just are so compassionate too at that age that even some of them, I think they can't even recognize what they might be going through or their families and friends might be going through, but just seeing people on the streets or knowing people who are that are going through that, or the sheer number of people in the city that are going through hunger, experiencing hunger and food insecurity. And they just had so many great ideas about how to help. I mean, they wanted to get a school garden going, so I'm hoping
Oh, that's
to get a
awesome.
grant.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, we don't have space like for gardening, but I'm hoping to get some kind of grant for like a greenhouse so we
You
can.
could even do like a potted garden, like that's what I live in a condo, so you can't really like make a garden, but I put like a bunch of pots all around my porch area.
Exactly. And then, their idea was to donate, but even I think it would be great if they take the food, the fresh produce home to their families, and kind of we get some healthy, nutritious
Mhm.
recipes to send home and start instilling those habits. Because one of the other things that they learned was how people experiencing food insecurity at much higher rates are experiencing obesity, diabetes, and other health.
Mm.
And that's really important right now too, right? I mean, when we think about health, we have to think about the big picture and all of these things that we can do to stay healthy. And it shouldn't matter what your income is or where you live. You should be able to have the opportunity to be healthy and eat nutritious food. And so that's a big part of our project. But the part that we're working on right now is just raising money for the food banks for New York City. And the kids were so generous at first. They wanted to donate their own money. They had dollars in their
Oh.
pockets that they were pulling out. But I told them, you're just kids and you don't have jobs, so we got to think about other ways, and we don't want to take your parents' money. We can do more. We can raise money by making things and selling things. And we gave some
Mhm.
examples of how people do that. So they came up with that they could make holiday cards and sell them for about, they figured out about $2 because most people paid $3 to $4 for a card. So they figured they
And
could
they
get,
are just the cutest things.
aren't
And
they?
yeah, and I was like asking for an upgraded service because like I'm the type where like still at like 30 years old, my mom's like, all right, you need to sit down and write your thank you cards. that you're not getting up from this counter until you write your thank you cards for Christmas. Thank you, Mom. Shout out to you. Uh, so I was like, yo, can I like tell you what I want written on them and like pay you for the stamps? So I definitely still like whenever you get back into your classroom, they can be belated cards. Like
Yeah.
it's more than they would have gotten originally. So I definitely want to make sure that I get you that money. And we're going to put like a link in the description down below for everybody if they want to, you know, see whether it's cards or whatever the next thing is that you guys do towards this initiative.
Yeah, and we appreciate your support. I actually tied it because, like I said, this is all about connecting all our learning in a real world
Mhm.
context. And so they were so excited today because in math, we weren't just solving math problems. We were figuring out how many cards we sold and how much money we made. If it
Oh,
cost $2. So they're multiplying, they're adding, and it was like they
and
were
that's everyday math. I do that every day. I'm like, how many hours I gotta work? The vacation cost this much.
and they just were so engaged because they had a purpose to solve those problems. They
Hmm.
wanted to know how much money are we going to give to the food banks, and it's important that I get the right amount because I don't want to keep some of that money by accident.
Right.
I don't want
Embezzlement over here.
yeah, exactly. So, and when one kid even said, "This feels like a game." It was so cute. And so, but my point is too that I made a table. It was real. It had all the people who bought cards and how many they bought. And so I wrote Miss Edmonds, and they're like, "Who's
Hey.
Miss Edmonds?"
Let's go. Yes. Oh, okay, so that's what I was gonna say. We should like do a meetup or something like with our classes. Like your class can like present their thing to my class or something and tell us what they're doing. I don't know. Like
They'd probably be shy, but they would
everybody,
be
yeah,
so feel so important to be able to do that.
that would be awesome, I think.
A new age pen pal.
Huh? You want another orange? All right. So where are we? Let's see. All right. So this is the question that I've been asking a lot of people lately. Um it's like the class disruption question. So like what is a change that you would make that doesn't necessarily cost money that you think would have a big impact on the system?
So I was thinking about this question for a while, and gosh, it's really hard to think of things that don't actually cost money. Even, my first thing is like I would lower the class sizes, but that costs money, right?
Okay, I guess that's I think though you can probably do it without because I would argue that there's just like a lot of overhead, right?
I agree.
So
But
I don't think that it necessarily would cost more money. It just means that there can't be some fancy suit that cost, $250,000.
that's true. No, I agree with you because but they said that this year they said they were going to deploy all these people from the central offices. And I thought, well, yeah, this is perfect. This is what we need to happen. Everybody who we employ so many people at the
Mhm.
DoD, and we'll get them in the classroom. They're all certified teachers. They should be really great teachers because they've moved up the ladder.
Yeah, right?
They told me how to teach, right? So they should be awesome teachers, which are perfect. That's what we need right now. We need really strong teachers with a small group of kids, just pushing them. And then I don't know about other schools, but for us, September came around. The ULIT, the Universal Literacy Coach, did get deployed, but okay, that's one person who
Yeah.
was already in our school, and she just got moved from being a coach to a teacher. And then that was it. Everybody's still at the central office, and we got a bunch of substitutes.
Mm.
So I just thought, wow, that was really disappointing because we had a great, and I know that there's a lot going on management wise, and everybody's very busy. And I'm actually doing some work with my district office for a leadership program that I'm in. So I do know all the stuff that's going on at the district office, and I'm not trying to undermine them. But when it comes to like qualified teachers, I just think we gotta get them back in the classrooms.
Hmm. Yeah. 100%.
Yeah, so I was like, I thought about that first. That's like my number one thing that I would do, especially with young kids, because I've
Yeah, I
seen.
was just gonna say, I think it's especially important with the young kids, and then I think that as they get older, we can do like a more hybrid thing. That's kind of like always how I am. Like, I don't think we should get rid of all grades ever in every class, but like, I think like maybe some courses should be like more gradeless and more about just like feedback and stuff, and then you have your more traditional classes. And I would say the same thing. Like, I think in high school it would be dope to be in a class. I mean, I had the privilege to go to a private school I went to go play ice hockey. And so I was in classes that I had 6 kids, you know, and then I had classes that were a little bit bigger too. So I think you should get both because then you go to college and you oftentimes get put in huge classes. So you got to have that.
Yeah, no, exactly. I think when you're like, again, going back to back to the basics, when you're trying to teach kids how to read and you have 32 of them and I've experienced it. I mean, first of all, the classroom, you could feel like you barely breathe. And
Mm.
now it's like impossible to even imagine
Is that
that.
how many you
COVID
have? You have
time.
32 kids?
This year I don't, but back in the day before COVID,
Okay.
I had 31
Okay.
second graders and about 26 of them I think were in third grade. And then this year I have 21, but I only have 10 in one group and 11 in the other.
Okay.
That's like, you really feel the difference when you have a group
Yeah.
of kids, even 15 or even 20. I think 20 is great, but that's not what we have. The reality is we can have up to 32. So
Yeah.
that's a big change I would make. But I also, going back to kind of some of the stuff we're talking about before, I just think so much can make a big impact at just the curricular level.
Mm.
I mean, if we just implemented more of what we're talking about, like thematic units and real world application, and just, I mean, I don't know. I was trained as a teacher to do these things, to plan units
Yeah.
and the backwards planning and the universal design. And I just feel like we just spend a lot of money on curriculum that's scripted and not necessarily.
Curriculum for all. Oh, we got
Oh, so cute.
Don't worry, we're wrapping up. Yeah, no, I totally agree with and I think too it goes back to the teachers unions, academia, how everybody has their spot. I know in high school, I know it's probably a little bit different in elementary because you guys are more trained across the curriculum. I guess you're specifically ENL, so you have what is that? Does that mean you have like all kids who are English language learners, or like how is that different from a just regular education
Yeah,
elementary
so I
teaching?
also have my Common Branch
Okay.
certification. So I am considered a gen ed teacher too, but I work under the ENL license.
Okay.
So my class is usually mostly English learners.
Uh-huh.
It's like a self-contained model, but
Okay.
it doesn't mean they're all English learners.
Okay.
But
Okay.
yeah, and that's a big thing for me. It's like I feel a responsibility to provide these students with a rich language instruction, not just based on what some workbook says, this use this for else. I mean, that's not what they need. And I have a master's, and we studied this. Like, we all have masters in
You didn't put
as
that in your bio though. I didn't.
but
Um,
it's like, why are we highly trained if we don't use any of it? And we just want to go make a copy of the sheet that says use this for English learners.
no packet pimping over here. Let's go. That was one of my other guests. She said that, so I stole that line. But
Love
have you ever heard of Linda Mood Bell learning processes?
it. Mm-mm.
So that's where I worked for like 5 years when I was in college and grad school, and they have reading comprehension program, and they have and so it's not scripted necessarily, but they have kind of like techniques, and like they do you kind of like learn it in a script, but it's you don't need to do it scripted. Like once you get the flow of it, you make it your own. So I don't know how scripted some of the programs that you are doing, but I love their program. Like the way that they do it, you always give a compliment. You're like, oh, great job with that duh sound, like even if they barely got it right, you like try to find something. And then you're like, all right, so and then you like pivot and you like bring their attention to focus on like the one thing you want to work on, and you get them to make the change, and then you're like, yes, awesome, and like you just like super hype them up about everything. And I would say as a social studies teacher, I feel like I use their script, but again, I wouldn't, it's not like a word for word kind of deal.
It's like a flow.
Yeah, it's like a structure, it's like techniques, and it's very much like it's very phonics heavy. Like I said, like if they're trying to do the word dog, and they said pog, you'd be like, oh, good job with that g sound. Like when you say pog, what do you picture for the p? And they'd be like, oh, I mean, what do you picture for the p? And they'd be like p. And yeah, we're looking for dog. When you say duh, what do you picture for d? Or I'm messing it up. What do you picture for duh? You know?
Mm.
So it's like kind of scripted, but it's like also not. I don't know.
Yeah.
But it's a cool program. Like I would suggest also like looking into that. I don't know
Yeah,
if
for sure. I'm always looking into new things, and I think that's important. Like we have to take bits and pieces from different resources that work for us.
Mhm.
It's not just one size fits all.
Yeah. But I would say, yeah, like to me, if the kids can't read, like even in high school, like what's the point of them being in my class? I'm not saying that they shouldn't ever get there, but we need to be more dynamic and we need to be more responsive, and we have the resources to do it. We have the people to do it. It's just like a bunch of people just pushing freaking paper around.
Hmm.
And I've been saying this again, this is nothing, like they're good people, but don't count me as a good person. I don't want to be a good person. I want to be a person that actually does the right thing.
Right.
Apparently that's not a good person.
Yeah, you get a lot of bullying on Twitter.
Hey, listen, I know. And that's my thing too. Like, I don't know if I should like chill on Twitter because like people, it's just not the right context for me, maybe. Because I feel like once I get on with people, like I can get on with people, but on Twitter, people just like put you in a box, like in 240 characters, and then they pile on, that pile is crazy.
It is. I mean, gosh, I'm like, well, that was the last time I'm ever going to reply to your tweets. I
But
feel
like
bad.
when you have people in real life though, you'd be like, yo, bro, like look at this. And they'd be like, what? Those people are crazy, And I'm just like, yeah, you're right. That doesn't matter. So but
Yeah.
but I saw your tweet today got play. I was like, okay. I was like, look, and I was like, does she usually get that much likes? I was
No.
like, okay, let's go. So
Yeah, I was like, wow, I'm blowing up. I'm going by.
I know. I was like, all right. I was like, just in time to get the interview. Okay. Ride this one up with Eleni.
Yeah, no, it's funny. And my boyfriend's like, you tweet? Like, and I really haven't. I really haven't been like, just recently I've been tweeting a lot because I feel like I have no other outlet of like, just somebody listen to me, listen to us. Like, I feel, and I think you feel it too. Like, well, who's our voice? The union? That's not my voice. And I don't know where else to go. I mean, seriously, when I tell you I was getting depressed last spring thinking about those like 2 or 3 kids that never showed up, I just started writing. I wrote like 2 or 3 essays, and I
Okay.
kept sending them to like the New York Times,
Yeah.
like everywhere. I was like, take my op-ed, and nobody published it. And I'm like, I don't know. I just want people to listen. So Twitter's working a little better than my
Well,
op-eds were.
listen, we can have a conversation anytime you want. We'll do what is this? School shut down
Yeah.
protest podcast or something like that. So, is there any inspiration, motivation you want to leave the people with?
I don't know. I don't have a mantra or anything like that. Um, Gosh, just what keeps me going is the kids. And
Mm,
I can't fathom how anybody can make these decisions and think about them at the same time.
mm.
And so I just implore everyone to imagine the way that you feel as adults after sitting on Zoom all day, after being on the computer, after not seeing your friends, being in lockdown. And then imagine being 8 and imagine trying to learn to read. And that's what keeps me going every day. It's like I'm not going to give up this fight even if nobody's listening. I'll just keep ranting and
Yeah. Or being
until
15 and trying to like read an essay, right? Like annotate something. Cause like I know even for me now, like I hate annotating online. Like I'll buy the printed version or something. And so I can have it here and then type over here. So I, man, I definitely feel it for these kids. And so I'm right here with you. We're gonna keep fighting. We're gonna keep protest podcasting and op-edding out here. And I don't know, maybe make some moves on I don't know. A lot of people have been talking about putting together their own thing lately. So it's definitely something I'm thinking about.
yeah, listen, I'm up for anything. I know we talked about like doing classes outside. I mean, I
Yeah.
for sure I'm thinking about that for the summer right now. I mean, I'm a wimp in the cold. I'm not going. I tried to get a COVID test the other day and the line was so long. I was numb. I'm like, nope, I'm gonna go home. But don't worry, I scheduled a test that I won't have to wait in line.
Okay.
But yeah, I don't do well with the cold, but I'm thinking, in the summer, these kids are going to need intervention. If I have whatever I need, permit or whatever
Uh-huh.
I need, the go ahead, like meet me in
I
the
have to talk
park.
about it.
Let's get it done. And yeah, if you wanna try to write some more op-eds, maybe we make enough noise, we'll get published.
Let's do it.
I'm
All right.
up for anything.
Well, thank you so much. And we'll definitely be checking in again real soon.
Hope you enjoyed that conversation with Eleni, the co-founder with me of Teachers for Open Schools. If you want to check more of her out, she is on Twitter and she is on Instagram. I've got those linked in the description down below. And of course, get involved with Teachers for Open Schools. We have a growing community of teachers. We're in coalitions with parents all across the country, and we're going to get these schools open, and we need your voice with us. I'm really concerned about the future of public education. So many people are leaving to go to private schools, homeschools, other options, which is, we're not against that. But we are worried that teachers aren't necessarily going to have a job to go back with if we don't get into these buildings. What we do is essential. School are essential. So let's get these kids back in school. Reach out to me or Lenny. We'll get you linked in to the group nationally. We'll plug you in with a group who's working in your local district or school. We're going to get these schools open for all kids across the nation as soon as we can. So join us at teachersforOpenSchools.com. And until next time, stay foolish, y'all.